Yeah, Tim, the attorneys representing those with disabilities just got access to hundreds of documents from the Joint Office of Homeless Services. That's the county-run organization responsible for purchasing and handing out a majority of the supplies for people living on the streets. Now, through these documents, we're learning that taxpayers have spent at least $2 million on tens of thousands of tents and tarps since 2020.
What we see on our streets today, side effects of a humanitarian crisis made worse by the pandemic, and in many ways still struggling to recover.
These are survival tools, that's all.
And surviving is what Johnny Ray has been doing in Old Town for 10 years. An important part of his survival, tents and tarps, like the ones that make up his brown hut on the side of Northwest Davis Street.
Oh, very helpful. Very helpful. It can save your life.
2 years ago, at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, Multnomah County's Joint Office of Homeless Services gave out tents to homeless nonprofits and people living on the streets in an effort to keep them safe as shelters closed amid COVID concerns. They also did this during severe weather events. Now, 2 years later, they continue to hand them out, many of which end up blocking city sidewalks, which some people with disabilities say makes it nearly impossible to get around.
What the county did was put tents on the sidewalks, which is the very reason why my plaintiffs are suing the city.
John DiLorenzo is the attorney representing the 10 Portlanders that sued the city over ADA access on the sidewalks.
I know of many instances in which people with disabilities were telling nonprofit groups, please do not block these sidewalks. And the nonprofit groups were just doing it anyway.
According to 2021 county budget documents, the Joint Office of Homeless Services gave out 6,550 tents and 27,000 tarps. But that was just for 1 year. The Joint Office tells KGW they haven't yet assembled the amount they gave out this past year. However, through recent subpoenas, the attorneys in this case obtained documents that show from March 2020 to September 2022, the county used at least $2 million taxpayer dollars to purchase 22,700 tents and 69,514 tarps.
A while ago, I used to drive around and think, where are all these tents coming from? And now I realize that we bought them.
The numbers break down to roughly 4 tents and 13 tarps per homeless person over the past 2 years. But for some, it's been much more than that.
I've had maybe like 30, maybe 40. I've been here 10 years.
Okay, and how many tarps would you say?
Maybe 40 or 50 maybe. I've had a few over the years.
Toby has had a new tent every year for the past 12 years. He gets them from friends or shelters. If you never had a tent out here, do you think you'd be out here this long?
Probably not. I might have got tired of it a lot faster. You know, if I didn't have any shelter.
Many of the supplies provided by the county, the city clears in routine camp removals, leaving the homeless coming back for more.
So the tents were either swept up or they disintegrated or they were just thrown by the wayside and people just kept supplying them with new tents.
So the Joint Office says they used federal COVID relief money to supply many of the tents and tarps back in 2020. But now that money is running out and they're cutting back on the supplies that they give out. Yet the attorneys in this case found millions of taxpayer dollars were used over the past 2 years. Now a settlement on this case is scheduled for next month. Tim?
That is a lot of gear. All right, thanks, Blair.